Hey, Ben here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to get out of freeze mode by simply shifting your posture. Now you're probably familiar with the fight or flight state, but there's this other state of the nervous system that you may have heard about called the freeze mode, also known as the dorsal vagal state. Now you can think of this as, you know how certain animals like a dolphin or a shark has a dorsal fin? You can think of this as when your back is up against the wall, is sort of the feeling that we have when we go into freeze mode. And the reason that this happens is really interesting. In its effort to always protect us, the brain and nervous system wants to protect us from harm. So it normally will activate that sympathetic or fight or flight mode. But in those occasions, like back in the day, if you were actually cornered by a saber-toothed tiger and there was really no way to get out of it, your brain would actually send you into this freeze mode by activating that dorsal vagal state. Imagine again, your back is sort of up against the wall. And it does this to sort of shut down the sensory experience because it doesn't want you to feel whatever might be coming. But now in this day and age, we don't have such types of threats, but oftentimes we find ourselves going into that freeze mode simply because there's too much information coming into our systems. We feel overwhelmed or overloaded. And when that happens due to stress or chronic illness or just feeling like we've taken on too much, we can find ourselves really seizing up. Fortunately, the same way that the brain can send that information to the body to seize up and freeze, we can also use our body to send new information back up to the brain. This is known as a bottom-up approach. And so the first thing we're going to do is, if you find yourself in freeze mode, feeling overwhelmed or overloaded, first thing I want you to do to just get back into your body is to cue yourself by touching your index finger to your thumb. So this is something you can practice every time. That will just remind you that you have a body. You can squeeze the two together and just really feel. You can even make a little movement there, rubbing your fingertips back and forth. And that will just remind your brain, hey, okay, there's a body here. Now, once you have that indication, what we're going to do is create a little bit of motion. You might find when you're in that freeze state that you're naturally tensing up. So what I want you to do is we're actually going to change our posture here. Normally, the freeze happens when we feel, again, like the back is up against the wall, there's no place for us to go, and we just have to stand there and take whatever's coming. But when you take a step back, so I'm going to take a step back with my right leg and keep my left leg up front, this actually starts to already signal to the brain that you have options, you have movement, you have different areas to go. There are different options available to you. Now further, we're going to accentuate this by just slowly rocking back and forth. So postures can be static and postures can also be dynamic. We can do them in motion. And I'm also going to introduce some lateral movement here, side to side. So think of it almost like a little bit of a boxer, right? Now what's happening here is my brain is actually getting new signals that's saying I'm not stuck, I'm not frozen, I have options, I don't have to stay here, I can move around the space. And if you want, you can even get the feet moving in the other way. So you can take a step back with the other foot and just switch back and forth. So by shifting back and forth like this, going into almost a little bit of a capoeira movement here. But by just taking these little dance steps, remember, you're signaling back to your brain you're not frozen, you have mobility, and you are getting yourself out of that freeze mode. Now, another thing that can happen is sometimes we want to be able to actually move forward. We want to be able to activate force, not just, maneuver, right? So in this case, what can be really helpful is going up to a wall and just pressing against it. This sends back to your brain the information that you can actually have the ability to produce force or create change, even in that overloaded scenario. If you don't have a wall, maybe you have a partner. So I'm going to invite Katie on screen here to demonstrate. So Katie, she's going to be the wall. Maybe take a little step back and take a power stance like the one I just went into.
Yeah.
And if you do have a partner to practice this with, it works even better because you guys can experiment with different levels of force. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten my back, really stand up with my posture straight. I'm going to make sure my shoulders are pressed forward, not sinking back. And I'm just going to push into it really hard. And we're going to have a little bit of a pushing match here. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
And already what that does is now I feel a little bit more engaged. I feel again like I have more options. And then lastly, we're going to take a little bit of evasive movers here. Now, normally when we get into that freeze mode, our brain wants to just resist whatever might be causing it. And we know that what we resist actually persists. So instead of resisting it, the last exercise and posture and shift we're going to make is something that we can use to tell our brain that we can actually dance with whatever this discomfort might be. And in this one, I'm just going to use my hands. I'm going to take that hip width stance, and I'm just going to move to my left side. So I'm going to push off my right foot, move over to my left side, and as I do that, I'm going to extend my left arm going this way. I'm going to turn, go the other side, and extend my right arm going the opposite way. And I'm just going to do that going back and forth. So kind of getting a little press, moving and bobbing and weaving. And what's happening here is you can see when we have that sense that things are just coming at us faster than we can handle, we don't have to push against them necessarily. We don't have to be backed into a corner by them. We can actually dance with them. We can move with them. And the way to make this most effective is actually to make it fun. Have fun with this. Create your own movements. Try adding a little bit of a bounce to it. Try adding a little bit of a step to it. Enjoy this process, and I will see you in a future video.